You're listening to the Full Court Press with your host, Drew Duncan. Don't you dare touch that dial. I really feel like over the last couple of years, the NCAA is turning more and more into the NFL. And this probably, with the things that I'm getting ready to talk about in this segment, really kind of alludes to the fact that I think college football players are getting to the point where they feel like they should get paid. And I think that with the conversations that we're having about the huge financial scandal that's going on right now in the NCAA, with Louisville being named part of it, Auburn, Oklahoma State, other programs. What was it, 4 coaches that were arrested? Total of 10 people were arrested in the indictment. We're starting to look at the idea that maybe it would benefit the NCAA if they would start paying these players as it is. Maybe we would be able to prevent some of these things from occurring. I'm not saying all. There's always going to be cheating. Look at the NFL. Those guys get paid. There's still Deflategate. There's still Spygate. My team, the Denver Broncos, has technically cheated more times than any other team in the NFL. I feel like college football, as much as we all love it because of the pageantry, the way that we choose to view it from the outside, we don't want to see the politics that go into college football. They go into college sports in general. And I don't blame you. But there is a very real, harsh reality to college football specifically, and that is players now are beginning to treat it as if they're in the NFL. And my case in point was David Cornwell, who'd already transferred from Alabama, went to Nevada to be with the Wolfpack, has now, quote, said he wants released from the Nevada Wolfpack. Released? I want to release? Again, what does he think this is, the NFL? So now what, is he a free agent? Is he on the market? Is that what this is? I don't understand. And by the way, in that football game, after he said it, they played Washington State. They got snuffed out 45-7. And Cornwell, he was all of 13 of 25. Didn't even throw for 200 yards, 3 interceptions, and a big fat goose egg for touchdown passes. You know, I could see both sides of the argument. Number one, when he showed up there in January, later in spring, Coach Norvell, who, by the way, is a first-year head coach and has spent time at Oklahoma as an offensive coordinator, spent time at Texas as a wide receivers coach, was in the NFL as a linebacker for the Chicago Bears back in 1987, was actually an all-pro, said that Cornwell was going to be the starter going into the season. But then he changed his mind. He gets Ty Gungy to be the quarterback, who, by the way, was a transfer out of Colorado. And Jay's reasoning was, well, we were a different football team in the spring than we were going into the fall season. Of course, Ty played all of 2 games. David comes in for 1 game, and that was it. Now he wants out. So what is it? Is it the coaching decisions? Is he blaming play calling? If he's looking at coaching decisions, I can understand. But the fact is, he still went off and played that game. So is it because he doesn't think that he's on a team that's good enough? You know, there are so many different aspects to situations like this. But just to kind of give you an idea about transfers and how ridiculous it's actually gotten, last year, Athlon Sports reported top 25 NCAA football transfers. Wasn't just quarterbacks, it was linebackers, it was running backs. This season, they did a top 100 top transfers in college football. So they bounced from 25 potentially really strong transfers to 100? If that doesn't tell you what's going on in college football right there, I don't know what does. And if you're in the Big 12, most notably Kenny Hill, right? It's happening all too often. You know, I interviewed Coach Troy Morrill not too long ago I say that, but it's been about 3 years. It was actually the last interview that ever happened on the radio when he was at Butler still. And a lot of people around these parts know about Coach Troy Moore. Was at Butler Community College, had over 170 kids go from his school to Division I programs. During his time there, he saw 11 players make it to the NFL. So Coach Troy Moore is very well known around Kansas. And Troy Moore said that he always tells his guys that when you go and you pick a school, you better like the school instead of the coach, because the coach is a day-to-day job. And so because the coach is a day-to-day job now, I'm adding this because that was the end of the quote. But because the coach is a day-to-day job, number one, he's going to do whatever he can to protect himself. Nevada goes in 0-2. They're doing what they can. Well, maybe we need to change and go back to David. They go back to David. Washington State blows them out 45-7. Now what do we do? You know, the inconsistency of Jay Norvell could be the issue here. I mean, after all, he's a first-year coach. He's trying to just kind of figure all this out. Well, when you're a head coach, you don't get to try and figure it all out. You've got to get your bearings right away. You've got to make a choice. And initially, he stood by his decision. Again, I go back to the quote where he said we were just a different football team in the spring than we were in the fall. But that's why a lot of coaches wait until the fall before they actually decide who their starting quarterback is going to be. Some coaches still don't get it right. Look at Charlie Strong. He didn't know if he wanted to start Shane Bluchel or Swoops. As a result, they played a two-quarterback system for a couple of games. It just doesn't work out for him. He doesn't succeed at Texas. He goes to South Florida. So far having a good year, but who have they played? The point is this. Kids get tired of inconsistency in coaching. So I can understand that aspect of it. You know, I wouldn't want to deal with a coach that doesn't know what the hell he's doing either. But then again, Cornwell came from Alabama. Well, why does he come from Alabama? Of course, Jalen Hurts, starting since he was a freshman, is going to be the guy for the next 4 years. And what do kids want to do? They want to go to the NFL. They want to get TV time. They want to be seen. They want to be in a system that is a, quote, pro system, which is what Nevada is supposed to be. We are long past the point of ridiculousness. That's right, I said it. Ridiculousness with transfers in college football. Now, I understand there are extenuating circumstances that lead to a kid transferring. Some kids get homesick. They just can't be away. They need to go back to their home state. You have instances like what happened at Baylor or Penn State or some of these other schools, Ohio State. They get hammered with violations. So the NCAA has gotten to the point where they now allow those kids to transfer and say, you know what, a lot of this isn't on you guys. Not everybody was guilty here, so we're going to allow you all to transfer. Those are extenuating circumstances, and everybody, I think, understands those moments. But then you got a guy like Cornwell, or you got a guy like Kenny Hill, who just decides, you know what, I'm just going to bounce all over the place until I find the fit that's right for me, and I'm going to figure out a way, one way or the other, to get to the NFL. Why are we allowing kids to have such power strokes in college football? Is this like the reward for not paying them? Like, hey, bro, you know, here's what's going on, dude. We're not going to pay you, but we're going to basically allow you all to start transferring at will. I mean, they're treating it like NBA players. Right? A guy says, hey, you know what, dude? I just want to get traded. I want out of here. All right. Cool. We'll figure out who we're going to trade you for. Don't worry about it. It's all going to get taken care of, bro. I.e. Kyrie Irving. So what happens? He gets traded for Isaiah Thomas. I.e. Carmelo Anthony. But see, though, those guys are professional basketball players. And while I don't always agree with people wanting to leave or create all these, quote, super squads, as a professional athlete who's getting paid, you feel like you have some right to go to the team that suits you best. I could see it as a pro athlete, but as a collegiate student, and part of that is, again, on the coaches. They make these promises. They over-recruit. Nick Saban himself has said, we over-recruit a lot, and it can bite us. And that was actually one of the discussions, if I remember correctly, with Cornwell. because he was part of, what was it, 2 or 3 different quarterbacks that ended up transferring out of Alabama when they got Jalen Hurts. You make a promise for this guy, you make a promise for that guy, and now all of a sudden everybody's got a promise, and you can't fulfill all of them, and so they decide they're going to leave. And I get why coaches over-recruit, because you don't know if somebody's going to decommit, you don't know if somebody's going to, drop out, you don't know if somebody's not going to show up. There's 101 things that could happen. So what are you doing? You're protecting yourself. Well, then when everybody shows up, then what? This really just dives in to the dirty side of athletics. And I think that kids, for whatever reason, 18, 19-year-old kids that we all think are so ignorant, they are well aware of everything that's going on around them. We talk about them as if they have zero idea. They get rude awakenings pretty fast. And when they figure out what's going on, you better believe they think that they run the rooster. I heard one time somebody call them assailants, and the assailants don't run the asylum. Well, I don't think they're assailants, and I don't think they're in an asylum. I think they're kids that are in a faulty, hypocritical system. The FBI investigations that have been going on in college basketball are more evidence that no matter what happens in the world of sports, there is always going to be somebody out there who is willing to go the distance to cheat, to pay a player to come to his school. How many people called Cam Newton Scam Newton? Whether he knew anything or not, I don't know. But I think that more than anything, kids are tired of seeing coaches who are able to turn a blind eye to everything, and then everything is the responsibility of the kid. In this instance, I would say that Cornwell has a right to be upset. From the looks of things, Jay Norvell just doesn't know what he's doing as a head coach. You would think that somebody who's been around the game for as long as he has, who's been an assistant for as long as he has, learning under people like Bob Stoops and Mac Brown and some others, that he would be able to step into a system, get his bearings, and make choices. But he's not. And when teams get caught cheating, what do? They get to go to the NFL and win Super Bowls, i.e. Pete Carroll. Meanwhile, Terrell Pryor, he still gets his 6-game suspension carried over from the NCAA to the NFL. But his head coach, Jim Tressel, gets to go and be an offensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts. Nothing happened to him. He wasn't told, you can't coach for 6 games. You can't coach for a season. No, that didn't happen to him. He got to turn a blind eye and say, I don't know what's going on. Just like Rick Pitino the other day, right? Oh, this comes as a huge shock to me. Does it? Does it really come as a huge shock to you? Yeah, I think at the end of the day, when I see all these kids transferring and saying they want to release and they want out of here and they want out of there, it's really only going to be ever one of 2 things. They have either decided that they're going to go the best route for them to get to the NFL and nobody's going to stop them from going, and they're going to keep transferring and moving around until they get it all figured out and they end up in the right place for them. Or basically they're looking at a coach that they don't feel can make the appropriate decisions that are necessary to lead a football team and do things the right way. There are 101 cases out there of coaches that are inconsistent. There's 101 cases out there of coaches who are getting busted for cheating. There's 101 cases out there of coaches who don't know how to recruit. And I don't understand why the NCAA doesn't just throw their hands up and say, you know what, we're going to give you guys money, but it's going to come with restrictions. I've always been under the influence of, you know what, what's $5,000 to $10,000 a year to a student? To make him stick around at one school, to hopefully not take all these payments, to not take duffel bag money. You'd be surprised what a little incentive does to somebody to help them make right decisions. But I think college football is getting to the point where it's too much like the NFL. And I know a lot of people out there saying, well, if we start paying them then it's going to get worse. It's going to be like the NFL, and guys are going to want more and more and more money. When's it going to be enough? They've got the stipend. They've got a free education. Did you know that Alabama, when I first reported that I believe that college kids should get paid in 2014, was raking in $100 million? Do you know what these teams get the kind of money they get for playing in these New Year's Six bowls, for playing in January, for playing in playoff games, the millions of dollars that they receive in television revenue? It's all a scam, and they've got away with it forever. The NCAA has 10 guys that were pinpointed, but there's a lot more, I can guarantee you, than 10. What I think it is a wake-up call to everybody's got to straighten up for a little while. And hopefully they do. What 18-year-old kid is going to turn down a duffel bag with thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars in it? Who's going to turn away cars? Maurice Clarett. Who would turn down a $1,500 check for showing up and watering grass for 15 minutes? Well, they need to get a job. Did you know they're not allowed to work? They are not allowed to work. Football is their job, and that's why they're treating it like it. So if the NCAA wants to start preventing all these guys from transferring and moving around and doing all these things, I think they need to start having a sit-down with coaches on, look, you've got restrictions on how many quarterbacks you can recruit, how many running backs you can recruit, how many guys get committed, and then you have to stop recruiting until one decommits, then you can go back. And if you don't pick up guys, oh well. I mean, they already leveled the playing field out with the scholarships, and we're starting to see that come to fruition a little bit. I think they need to start doing the same thing with recruiting. And they need to start going back to where a lot of these kids just can't transfer the way that they do now. Obviously, like I said, there are extenuating circumstances that I understand. And some of them are even academic. An academic transfer. I need to go here in order to be able to finish up the education that I'm getting. Damn sure positive everybody's okay with that. But it's just getting ridiculous. Nevada alone has 2 quarterbacks that transferred from Colorado and Alabama. And now Cornwell's already transferred from Alabama, wants to go somewhere else. Whereas Jay Norvell is concerned, he better figure out his quarterback situation quick. Because I guarantee you, this doesn't vote well in the locker room either, that only certain guys get to do whatever the hell they want and everybody else feels like they're stuck. So that's why you're seeing more and more linebackers and running backs and everybody else go, poof. Well, if the quarterback gets to do it, I damn sure can do it. It's really getting out of control, and it's a mess that needs cleaned up. Bad. This is the Full Court Press. I am your host, Drew Duncan. You guys are checking me out live from the K-Sun Studios in Wichita, Kansas. I am on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all at DrewDuncan83. We're going to take a quick sponsor break. When we come back, on the flip side, Coach Alonzo Carter, one of the better coaching stories in college football, just got a $25,000 check submitted to his football team, the San Jose Spartans, for community service. It's a really awesome story. I can't wait to talk about it. That's next. We'll be back right after this. Don't you dare touch that dial.